So here's a thought for the day. You know, once a month I say Mass at these three camps, one of these three camps, Camp Page, Afflerbon, and Rocky, and they're in the Laverne, San Dimas, Azusa area. And afterwards, when I can do it, I always go out to breakfast at Frizella's in Glendora. Best breakfast in LA County. I always have this big, huge platter of these sausage patties with eggs and hash browns and biscuits and gravy.
Wow.
The bomb. The most delicious thing. You know, and the truth is, eating this plate of food is probably shortening my life, but I also think that life is too short not to eat this thing. So, a couple weeks ago I went with a homie friend of mine, Sergio, who's kind of my spiritual director, and I took him to Mass, and we went to Mass. Then we went to Frizella's, and I always say, this is what I always order. So when the waitress came, he said, I'll have what he's having. And that's an expression I always use whenever I hear something, read something, see something, where I go, yeah, that's what I want to adopt. I want to embrace that idea or that notion. And so like once when I read, a reporter had asked the Dalai Lama about his own personal death, he said, change of clothing. And I thought, I want what he's having, you know. And recently I read kind of a thing about Krishnamurti, who's an Indian teacher. And somebody said, how do you maintain your serenity and your peace and your calm all the time? And very quietly he says, I don't mind what happens. And I remember thinking, I'll have what he's having, you know, because it's about freedom and a light grasp on life, and nothing can ever topple you if you have that kind of mindset. So it's been such a gift to be here for the last 3 weeks, because normally I'm kind of on the road a lot, and because of my treatments I had to stay home. And so it just, what a grace, you know. And I realized that everything is here, you know. It's all the wisdom, all the goodness, all the kindness, all the tenderness, all the courage, all the fidelity. It's all right here. So, you know, I hear Lamai, you know, he gets off parole and he's able to say to his parole officer, thank you for not inhibiting my work and my education in your supervising me. And I thought, wow, it's so gracious, it's so kind, and it's calling the parole officer to his best self. I'll have what Lamai's having. And, you know, I watch Inez, you know, and she's helping a homie kind of deal with his own addiction issues without blaming or shaming, but with tenderness and a warm embrace. I'll have what Inez is having. And I hear Robert Juarez talk about growing up and wanting to be seen, and even if that didn't happen as fully as he expected it to happen, he doesn't watch the trainees, he sees them. I'll have what Robert's having. Everything we need really is kind of right here. All the wisdom, all the depth of understanding, all the compassion, it's all right here. I'll have what you're having. Years ago, after the second of our workers was killed, and our graffiti crew was a devastating time, probably in our 30-year history here. And it was just so difficult. And going to the hospital, being with this guy's mom, and for hours and hours and hours. And I got home in time before the office closed. It was just before 5, because I wanted to be there to greet people and to hug people and console people and be there for people. And everybody was filing out and leaving. And then I sat all by myself in my office, you know, just feeling the wave of grief in my heart at the loss of this kid. And at least I thought I was alone. Then all of a sudden this homie appears, Freddie, who was in the back in our conference area. And there he is, he sits down and he asks how I'm doing. And he says, I know your heart is breaking. If I had a magic wand to pass over your pain. Well, I don't even know how to explain it, but the two of us at that moment just commenced to sob. We just sobbed. It was like this permission and release to feel the depth of this grief. We just sobbed for a really long time in each other's presence. Then finally he looked at me and he says, you know, Gene, a gang of us here, we're all drowning. But you reach into the river and you swoop us up, which made me cry all the more. Then he looked at me with such deliberation and he says, I swear to you on everything I love, if someone offered me a choice, $1 million, or a chance to swoop you up, I'd swoop you up. Everything we need is right here. Wisdom, depth of understanding and compassion, kindness, tenderness, wholeness. It's all here. I'll have what you're having.